Imagine standing atop a towering peak, the wind howling around you. As temperatures plummet, your fingers, once nimble and strong, begin to lose feeling. This isn't just discomfort, it's the onset of frostbite, a silent predator that creeps in when you least expect it. Today, we'll uncover the haunting truth behind frostbite in mountaineering, a condition that can turn a dream ascent into a nightmare. And we will also mention the unfortunate climbers who have fallen victim to it. So let's continue the video. Do you know what is frostbite? Let me tell you in short. Frostbite occurs when your skin and underlying tissues freeze, and the high-altitude cold can be merciless. The body's instinct is to preserve its core temperature, sacrificing blood flow to your extremities, the very fingers you rely on to grip your gear. As the cold seeps in, a chilling transformation begins. The signs are subtle at first: numbness, a tingling sensation. Then the skin turns a ghostly white. Without swift action, you may be left with not just frostbitten fingers, but the haunting choice of amputation. In the list of frostbite incidents involving some of the most well-known climbers, Number 1. Doug Scott, 1977. Doug Scott, a legendary British mountaineer, was involved in a near-fatal frostbite incident during his historic 1977 expedition to climb the Ogre in Pakistan. Scott and his climbing partner, Chris Bonington, successfully made the first ascent of the summit, but their descent became a life-threatening ordeal. While descending the mountain, the pair encountered a brutal snowstorm that left them exposed to extreme cold. Scott had to endure frostbite on both hands and feet due to prolonged exposure to freezing temperatures. He was unable to feel his fingers and toes, and they quickly became numb. The frostbite worsened as they descended, and Scott was in extreme pain. Eventually, the two climbers were forced to make a slow descent down the mountain, where they managed to find shelter. Despite the severity of the frostbite, Scott had to press on with the climb. By the time they reached safety, Scott had lost the use of his fingers and toes, and he eventually required multiple surgeries to amputate some of his fingers and toes due to gangrene. This climb and his experience with frostbite are still remembered as one of the most harrowing stories in mountaineering history. Number 2 is Tenzing Norgay. Mount Everest, 1953. Tenzing Norgay, the legendary Sherpa mountaineer, is remembered for his pivotal role in the first successful summit of Mount Everest alongside Sir Edmund Hillary in 1953. However, Norgay faced frostbite on his toes during the expedition, a risk that all high-altitude climbers face. The expedition was in the midst of an intense battle with the mountain's extreme weather, and even though Norgay and Hillary were not the first to reach the summit, they were the first to stand on top of Everest. During the descent, Norgay experienced frostbite on his toes, but it was not severe enough to require amputation. His resilience allowed him to recover relatively quickly, but it was a reminder of the extreme dangers climbers face on Everest. Tenzing's frostbite was relatively mild compared to others in mountaineering, but it remains a part of his legendary story of the Everest conquest. Number 3. Reinhold Messner, Mount Everest, 1980. Reinhold Messner, one of the most accomplished high-altitude climbers in history, had his own experience with frostbite during his expeditions. In 1980, Messner became the first person to ascend Mount Everest without supplemental oxygen, an extraordinary achievement that also came with a personal cost. During this solo climb, Messner encountered extreme cold and high-altitude conditions that led to severe frostbite on his toes. His frostbite was so bad that he lost several toes as a result. Despite this, Messner continued to climb and achieve remarkable success, completing numerous other high-altitude ascents, including all 14 of the world's 8,000-meter peaks. Messner's frostbite and toe amputation, however, are reminders of the brutal risks involved in climbing without supplemental oxygen in extreme conditions. Messner's frostbite was a significant part of his legacy, not just for the physical toll it took on him, but as a testament to the determination required to continue pushing limits despite such serious injury. Number 4. Dave Hahn, Mount Everest. Dave Hahn, an American mountaineer and experienced high-altitude guide, is known for his multiple attempts on Mount Everest. Throughout his climbing career, Hahn encountered frostbite during several of his expeditions. In particular, during one of his Everest expeditions, he developed frostbite on his fingers and toes after extended exposure to the mountain's harsh conditions. Although Hahn has summited Everest multiple times, the threat of frostbite is something he and other climbers are constantly aware of. His frostbite incidents were painful, but he did not suffer permanent damage, as he was able to treat the injuries in time. His experience underscores the fact that even seasoned climbers are vulnerable to the risks posed by extreme cold, especially when weather conditions worsen unexpectedly or climbers become too fatigued to properly manage their gear and warmth. Hahn's frostbite is a part of the harsh realities faced by climbers on Everest, and he remains one of the more cautious and experienced mountaineers to take on the world's tallest peak. These climbers' experiences with frostbite are just a few examples of the risks mountaineers face when climbing in extreme cold and high altitudes. Frostbite is a serious concern in the world of mountaineering, and even the most skilled climbers can fall victim to it, often with life-changing consequences. So, if you found this video helpful, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more interesting video.